We come together today, here in the heart of the Amazon, at a pivotal moment in human history. A moment that demands courage, cooperation, and unwavering commitment to our planet's future. A future that belongs not to us, but to our children and grandchildren.
A routine audit uncovered something nobody expected: a secret offshore account, hundreds of thousands of pounds, suspicious payments after every major royal event. When King Charles saw the evidence, his hands trembled. Prince William had warned them all along, but nobody listened.
Because I know how much loss he's suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
The investigation revealed a betrayal so calculated, so deliberate, that even seasoned palace officials were left speechless. Meghan Markle had been playing a dangerous game from day one, and when the truth finally came out, the royal family had no choice but to act. Margaret Hartley had worked in the Royal Finance Office for nearly 2 decades. She understood the rhythms of royal spending, the patterns of how money moved through various households. When she began reviewing the Sussex household accounts from the period before Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties, something caught her attention. Small discrepancies appeared in the records. Payments that didn't quite align with official engagement, schedules, expenses that seemed slightly off when compared to documented events. Another accountant might have dismissed these as simple clerical errors. After all, large organizations always have minor inconsistencies in their paperwork. But Margaret had learned over her years in the role that small irregularities sometimes pointed to larger problems. She decided to investigate further. For 3 days, Margaret worked through the records methodically. She cross-referenced payment dates with public schedules of royal engagements. She compared invoices with actual events that had taken place. The more she examined the documents, the more concerned she became. The discrepancies weren't random. They followed a pattern. Money was moving in ways that didn't align with standard royal household operations. Margaret brought her findings to Thomas Blackwell, a senior finance manager who had overseen royal accounts through 3 different reigns. When she showed him what she had discovered, his expression changed. He immediately understood the potential seriousness of the situation. This needed to be escalated to the highest levels of palace administration. Within hours, the matter reached Sir Clive Alderton, the King's private secretary. He recognized immediately that any financial irregularities involving royal household funds could become catastrophic if mishandled. The slightest suggestion of improper use of money would trigger intense media scrutiny and potentially parliamentary investigations. He ordered a full investigation but insisted it remain completely confidential. A small team was quietly assembled. Margaret and Thomas from the Finance Office, 2 senior legal advisors, and a discreet investigator with expertise in financial forensics. They received strict instructions. No leaks, no discussions outside the team, complete secrecy. This investigation had to remain contained while they determined exactly what had happened. The team worked through December, analysing bank statements, wire transfers, vendor contracts, and expense reports. Hidden within all that paperwork was something that shouldn't have been there. Payments were flowing to a consulting firm that nobody at the palace had heard of. The amount seemed excessive for what appeared to be standard public relations work. Sarah Chen, the lead investigator, began digging deeper into this consulting firm. Corporate records showed it was registered in Delaware, a state known for privacy-friendly business laws. The company had minimal online presence, no website, no social media accounts, nothing that would normally identify a legitimate business operation. These were significant red flags. When the investigation team obtained the consulting firm's bank records, they revealed something shocking. The money from the Sussex household didn't stay with the firm. It was immediately transferred to an offshore account in the Channel Islands. This discovery transformed the investigation from a simple financial review into something much more serious. The team spent Christmas working in complete secrecy. They traced money flows across multiple countries and jurisdictions. They built detailed timelines showing when money moved and why. What emerged from all this work was deeply troubling. The offshore account had been opened in early 2019, shortly after Meghan and Harry's wedding. Money began flowing into it almost immediately. Over time, hundreds of thousands of pounds moved through this account. The The amounts were substantial enough to raise serious questions about what was happening. What made investigators particularly suspicious was the timing of the deposits. The largest amounts arrived shortly after major royal events. Money came in after important family gatherings, after state occasions, after private meetings that later became subjects of media speculation. The correlation was too consistent to be coincidental. Someone with inside access to royal family activities appeared to be benefiting financially from that access. The pattern suggested a systematic arrangement rather than random transactions. Sarah Chen presented her findings to Sir Clive Alderton in early January 2026. She laid out the evidence: the hidden offshore account, the pattern of payments, the suspicious timing that correlated with royal events. While she couldn't definitively prove illegal activity, the arrangement clearly violated every protocol governing how royal family members were supposed to handle their finances. Sir Clive asked the question everyone was thinking: who controlled this offshore account? The investigation's findings pointed toward Meghan Markle. The account had been set up shortly after she joined the royal family. The consulting firm receiving payments had previous connections to her. The timing of everything aligned with her entrance into royal life. Sir Clive understood the gravity of what they had uncovered. This wasn't just a financial scandal. This was evidence that someone within the royal family had been monetizing their position in ways that violated fundamental principles the institution stood for. King Charles needed to be informed immediately, and after the king knew, Prince William would need to know as well. The palace now faced an incredibly difficult situation. They had uncovered what appeared to be serious financial misconduct by a member of the royal family. But taking action would create enormous complications. It would trigger a media firestorm. It would raise questions about family dynamics and potentially accusations of unfair treatment. It could permanently damage relationships within the family itself. Yet doing nothing wasn't an option either. If this information ever became public through other means, the palace would appear complicit in covering up wrongdoing. The monarchy's credibility, already fragile in modern times, could be irreparably damaged. The investigation had revealed an offshore account that nobody knew existed, an account that appeared designed specifically to hide financial arrangements from palace oversight. An account that raised fundamental questions about trust, duty, and the proper boundaries of royal life. What had started as a routine audit had uncovered something that would force the royal family to make choices with potentially devastating consequences. The offshore account sat in a bank in Jersey, one of the Channel Islands that wealthy individuals around the world use for financial privacy. From the outside, it looked like thousands of other accounts, legitimate, legal, protected by laws designed to shield clients from unwanted scrutiny. But when palace investigators examined the details closely, they discovered something far more complex than a simple savings account. The account had been opened in March 2019. The timing was significant. Meghan had been a working member of the royal family for less than a year at that point. She was still learning the protocols, still navigating her new role, still building her public image. Yet during this early period, someone with connections to her had established sophisticated financial arrangements that would take investigators months to fully understand. The account wasn't in Meghan's name. That would have been too obvious and easily traceable. Instead, it was held by a corporate entity registered in the British Virgin Islands. That company was owned by another company registered in Delaware, and that Delaware company was managed by a trust based in Switzerland. Each layer added distance between the account and its true owner. Each layer made tracing ownership significantly harder. Each layer provided what lawyers call plausible deniability. Palace investigators had resources and determination. They worked with financial experts who specialized in unraveling complex corporate structures. They obtained court orders that forced banks to reveal information normally kept confidential. Slowly, methodically, they traced the ownership chain back to its source. The beneficial owner, the person who ultimately controlled the account and could access its funds, had direct ties to Meghan Markle. The account structure was sophisticated enough to suggest professional help. Someone had designed this arrangement specifically to hide ownership while maintaining access. Someone had understood exactly how to navigate international banking laws. Someone had known which jurisdictions to use and which corporate structures provided maximum protection. This wasn't something an ordinary person could set up alone. Money flowed into the account from multiple sources. Some came through the consulting firm that had been billing the Sussex household. But other deposits came from entertainment companies based in Los Angeles, production firms that worked in television and film, and media organizations that covered celebrity news. The amounts varied considerably: £10,000 here, £25,000 there, occasionally £50,000 in a single transaction. What made investigators particularly suspicious was the timing of these deposits. They occurred in clusters, with several payments arriving within days of each other, followed by weeks of silence. The clusters often coincided with major royal events or family moments that later became media stories. A large payment arrived 3 days after a private family meeting at Sandringham. Another significant deposit came shortly after a state banquet where Meghan had been photographed with several heads of state. The pattern suggested coordination. Someone was providing information or access, and someone else was paying for it. The entertainment and media companies making deposits weren't random. Several had produced content about the royal family. Others had connections to journalists who regularly covered palace news. The web of relationships pointed toward a disturbing possibility. Royal access was being monetized. The account also showed outgoing transactions. Money didn't just accumulate, it was being moved regularly. Some transfers went to accounts in the United States. Others flowed to property investments in California. The spending pattern suggested someone building wealth quietly, diversifying assets across multiple locations and investment types. Palace legal advisors reviewed the evidence carefully. They understood that proving actual wrongdoing would be difficult. Offshore accounts are legal. Receiving payments is legal. Even having complex corporate structures is legal. But the totality of the arrangement violated royal protocols completely. Members of the royal family aren't supposed to profit from their positions. They aren't supposed to monetize access to family members or inside information. They aren't supposed to hide financial arrangements from palace officials. Prince William learned about the discovery on a cold January morning at Kensington Palace. Sir Clive Alderton arrived without warning, carrying a leather briefcase filled with documents William wasn't prepared to see. The meeting had been scheduled as a routine briefing, but William knew immediately from Sir Clive's expression that something serious had happened. Sir Clive laid out the evidence methodically. The hidden offshore account, the suspicious timing of payments, the corporate structures designed to obscure ownership, the connections back to Meghan. William listened in silence, his jaw tightening with each new revelation. He had suspected for years that Meghan's motives weren't entirely what they appeared to be, but this exceeded even his worst assumptions. William had never completely trusted Meghan. From the beginning, something about her felt calculated. The way she performed for cameras, the way she positioned herself in photographs, the way she seemed to understand media manipulation better than people who had been born into royal life. He had tried to warn Harry before the wedding. He had suggested a longer engagement, more time to truly know each other. Harry had responded with anger, accusing William of jealousy and prejudice. That conversation had damaged their relationship in ways that never fully healed. Now, sitting across from Sir Clive with evidence of financial impropriety spread before him, William felt a bitter vindication he didn't want. The evidence suggested that Meghan had been monetizing her royal position from almost the moment she gained it. She had built a secret financial structure while smiling for cameras and speaking about service. She had accepted payments from entertainment companies while attending state functions. She had turned access to the royal family into a commodity. William asked Sir Clive the difficult questions. Was Harry involved? Did he know about the account? The investigation had found no evidence of Harry's participation. His name appeared nowhere in the corporate structures. No payments flowed to accounts he controlled. He seemed genuinely ignorant of what his wife had been doing. That made the situation even more painful. Harry had sacrificed his relationship with his family to protect Meghan, not knowing she was betraying the institution he had been born into. The forensic accountants worked with surgical precision. They understood that in complex financial investigations, every detail mattered. A single transaction could unlock an entire network. A date could reveal a pattern. A recipient's name could connect seemingly unrelated payments. They approached the offshore account like archaeologists approaching an ancient site, carefully brushing away layers to reveal what lay beneath. The team organized every transaction chronologically. They built spreadsheets showing money flowing in and out. They color-coded sources. They tagged dates. They cross-referenced amounts. What emerged was a financial map that told a story more clearly than any witness testimony could. The earliest deposit into the account arrived in April 2019. £20,000 from a Los Angeles-based production company called Westridge Media. The company specialized in celebrity documentaries and reality television. On the surface, the payment appeared normal. Entertainment companies paid for consulting services regularly. But investigators dug deeper into Westridge Media's history. The company had produced exactly one project before the payment to the account. A short documentary about minor celebrities that never gained significant attention. After the payment, Westridge suddenly gained access to produce content featuring former royal staff members. People who had worked at Kensington Palace during Meghan's time there. People who had stories to tell about life behind palace walls. More payments followed over the months. A deposit of £15,000 came from a British tabloid's parent company just days after a private family dinner at Windsor Castle. That same week, the tabloid published an exclusive story about tensions between Meghan and Catherine, containing details that only someone present at the dinner could have known. The emergency meeting was convened in the most secure room at Buckingham Palace. Present were King Charles's most trusted advisors, senior legal counsel, and the head of palace communications. Everyone understood the gravity of what they were facing. This wasn't a scandal that could be managed with careful statements and strategic silence. This was existential. Sir Clive Alderton presented the evidence to the assembled group. He spoke calmly, but his words carried devastating weight. A member of the royal family appeared to have been selling access and information for years. The amounts totaled hundreds of thousands of pounds. The sophistication of the operation suggested deliberate planning rather than innocent mistakes. The legal advisors spoke first. Stripping a royal title wasn't a simple administrative action. It required navigating constitutional territory that had rarely been tested. In modern times, there were questions of jurisdiction, questions of due process, questions of what evidence would be legally sufficient to justify such a drastic step. One advisor pointed out that Meghan could challenge any decision in court, turning a private matter into a very public legal battle. The communications team offered an equally grim assessment. If the palace moved against Meghan, she would respond with maximum force. She had proven herself skilled at manipulating public opinion. She had media connections and public sympathy, particularly in America, where many viewed her as a victim of royal rigidity and traditional constraints. Any action against her would be framed as persecution, regardless of the evidence. But doing nothing carried its own catastrophic risks. If the hidden account became public knowledge through leaks or investigative journalism, the palace would appear complicit in covering up financial impropriety. Members of parliament would demand investigations. The Sauds. Press would question whether public funds through the sovereign grant had been misused. The monarchy's already fragile public support could collapse entirely. One advisor suggested a middle approach. Quiet negotiation with Meghan. Present the evidence privately and demand she return the money. In exchange, the matter would remain sealed. She would agree never to use royal titles for commercial gain, and the palace would not pursue criminal charges or public exposure. William, who had been invited to the meeting at his father's request, rejected this immediately. He argued that negotiating with Meghan would give her leverage to demand concessions. She could threaten to go public with her own accusations. She could claim bigotry or abuse. She could turn herself into a martyr while painting the family as villains. Appeasement would fail because Meghan had already proven she operated without regard for family loyalty or institutional integrity. Another concern haunted the room. What about Harry? If the palace stripped Meghan's title, they would be publicly declaring her guilty of serious misconduct. Harry would have to choose between his wife and his family yet again. Most believed he would choose Meghan, which meant losing him completely. The rift that already existed would become permanent and irreparable. King Charles had remained silent throughout most of the discussion, but now he spoke. He acknowledged the pain this would cause Harry. He acknowledged the public relations nightmare that would follow. He acknowledged every argument for caution and compromise. But then he said something that shifted the room's energy. The monarchy survived not because of its power, but because of its principles. For centuries, the institution had claimed to represent duty, service, and honor above personal gain. If they allowed someone to monetize royal access without consequences, they betrayed everything they claimed to stand for. King Charles spent 3 days alone with the evidence. He dismissed his staff, cancelled his appointments, and locked himself in his private study at Clarence House. The documents covered his desk in neat stacks: bank statements, corporate filings, transaction records. Each page represented another betrayal of trust, another violation of the principles he had spent his life upholding. He read everything multiple times. He wanted to find an explanation that would make this less damaging than it appeared. Perhaps Meghan had been poorly advised. Perhaps she hadn't understood the rules. Perhaps there was context that would change the meaning of what looked like calculated misconduct. But the more he read, the less plausible those explanations became. Charles thought about Harry constantly during those 3 days. His younger son had always been vulnerable, always searching for belonging after losing his mother so young. Meghan had offered Harry something he desperately wanted: a partner who seemed to understand him, who promised to build a life away from the suffocating expectations of royal duty. Harry had chosen that promise over his family's concerns. Now Charles had to tell Harry that the woman he loved, the mother of his children, had been using the family for financial gain. The conversation would destroy whatever fragile connections still existed between father and son. Harry would defend Meghan. He would refuse to believe the evidence. He would accuse the family of persecution. Charles consulted with constitutional experts about the legal mechanisms for removing titles. The process was complex, but possible. He had the authority as sovereign to request that Parliament strip titles through an Act of Parliament, or he could issue letters patent removing them through royal prerogative. Either path would be public and controversial, but both were legally sound. On the 4th day, Charles emerged from his study. He called Sir Clive Alderton and gave clear instructions. Meghan's titles would be formally removed, but before any public announcement, Harry would be informed privately. He deserved to hear this from his father, not from a palace statement. King Charles wrote the letter by hand. He sat at his desk with fountain pen and royal stationery, choosing his words with the care of someone who understood this might be the last meaningful communication he would ever have with his younger son. The letter took hours to compose. Multiple drafts were started and discarded before he found the right balance between honesty and compassion. The letter began with an expression of love. Charles wrote that regardless of what followed, Harry would always be his son, that nothing could change the bond between father and child, even when that bond was tested by impossible circumstances. He wrote about memories from Harry's childhood, moments of joy that had nothing to do with duty or institution. Then Charles shifted to the painful present. He explained that palace investigators had discovered serious scams, financial irregularities connected to Meghan. He didn't soften the language or hide behind euphemisms. He described the offshore account, the suspicious payments, the timing that correlated with royal events. He explained that the evidence pointed to a systematic monetization of royal access and information. Charles wrote that he understood how difficult this would be for Harry to accept. He acknowledged that Harry loved Meghan, that they had built a life together, that they shared children. He wasn't asking Harry to stop loving his wife, but he was asking Harry to look at the evidence objectively and understand why action had to be taken. The letter explained the decision clearly. Meghan's royal titles would be formally removed. She would no longer be able to use the style of the Duchess or Her Royal Highness. The action was not personal vindictiveness, but institutional necessity. The monarchy could not allow its members to profit from their positions without facing consequences. Charles offered Harry a choice. He could stand by Meghan and accept that this would create permanent distance from the royal family. Or he could acknowledge what his wife had done, work with the family to address it, and begin the slow process of rebuilding trust. The letter arrived at Harry's home in California on a Tuesday afternoon. Harry read it in his office with the door closed. As he progressed through the pages, his expression moved from confusion to disbelief to anger. He immediately called his father's private number. The call went to voicemail. He called again. No response came. Finally, hours later, Charles called back. The conversation lasted less than 10 minutes. Harry shouted that this was persecution. Charles remained calm, stating the evidence was conclusive. Harry accused the family of bigotry and jealousy. Charles said this was about documented financial impropriety. The call ended with Harry saying he was choosing Meghan, that Charles had lost both his sons now. The palace scheduled the announcement for 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning. The timing was deliberate. early enough to dominate the day's news cycle, late enough to ensure all major media outlets were fully staffed. The communications team had spent days crafting the statement, revising every word to balance transparency with legal caution. The statement was released simultaneously across all official palace channels: the royal website, social media accounts, direct transmission to accredited journalists. Within seconds, phones began ringing in newsrooms across the world. Editors shouted instructions, producers scrambled to interrupt regular programming. The biggest royal story in years was breaking, and everyone wanted to be first with the details. The statement was brief but devastating. It confirmed that following a comprehensive financial review, serious concerns had been identified regarding the conduct of the Duchess of Sussex during her time as a working member of the royal family. The statement noted that these concerns related to financial arrangements that violated established protocols governing how members of the royal family conduct themselves. The palace announced that His Majesty the King had made the decision to remove the royal titles and styles previously held by the Duchess. Effective immediately, she would no longer use the title Her Royal Highness or be referred to as the Duchess of Sussex. The statement emphasized that this decision was made after careful consideration of substantial evidence and in consultation with senior advisors. Critically, the statement avoided specific accusations. It didn't mention the offshore account. It didn't detail the payments. It didn't name the companies involved. Legal counsel had been clear. Specific allegations could trigger defamation lawsuits. The statement needed to be serious enough to justify the unprecedented action, while vague enough to avoid legal vulnerability. The final paragraph expressed regret that these circumstances had arisen. It stated that the royal family remained committed to upholding the highest standards of integrity, and that difficult decisions were sometimes necessary to protect the institution. The statement noted that no further comment would be provided at this time. The media reaction was instantaneous and explosive. Within minutes, every major news outlet was running breaking news alerts. Television networks interrupted regular programming. News anchors struggled to maintain composure while reading the unprecedented announcement. Royal correspondents who had covered the family for decades said they had never seen anything like this. Social media platforms erupted. Hashtags supporting and condemning the decision trended simultaneously. People who had always defended Meghan called the action persecution. Others said the palace had finally shown backbone after years of tolerance. Arguments erupted in comment sections. Families debated across dinner tables. The announcement divided opinion instantly and completely. Within an hour, the palace communications office was overwhelmed. Hundreds of media requests flooded in. Journalists demanded interviews, background briefings, access to officials who could provide context. All requests were declined. The statement was final, and the palace would not elaborate. Foreign media picked up the story with particular intensity. American networks devoted entire segments to analyzing what had happened. Commentators debated whether this proved the royal family was discriminatory or whether Meghan had genuinely committed serious misconduct. European outlets examined the constitutional implications. The story dominated international headlines in ways few royal announcements ever achieved. But the loudest silence came from California. Harry and Meghan's representatives issued no immediate response. Their social media accounts remained quiet. The house in Montecito appeared undisturbed from outside, though security presence had visibly increased. Journalists camped outside the gates, waiting for any sign of reaction. The response came 36 hours after the palace announcement. Long enough to craft a strategic message, long enough to coordinate with lawyers and publicists. When Meghan finally spoke, she did so through carefully chosen channels designed for maximum impact. A statement appeared on the Foundation website that she and Harry operated. It was personal, emotional, and devastating in its accusations. Meghan expressed shock and profound sadness at the palace's actions. She wrote that she had dedicated years to serving the monarchy with integrity, only to be rewarded with public humiliation based on false accusations. The statement categorically denied any financial wrongdoing. Meghan characterized the offshore account as a legitimate business arrangement established with proper legal counsel for managing her pre-existing entertainment career assets. She claimed the palace had known about these arrangements from the beginning. She suggested the timing of accusations, years after she stepped back from royal duties, was suspicious and vindictive. Then came the accusation that dominated headlines. Meghan stated plainly that she believed these actions were motivated by bigotry. She wrote that from the moment she entered the royal family as a woman of colour, she had faced different standards and harsher scrutiny. She suggested that white family members had engaged in similar business arrangements without consequences. The investigation, she claimed, was simply an excuse to punish her for being different. The statement announced that Meghan was consulting with legal counsel regarding potential defamation claims. She reserved the right to pursue all available remedies to clear her name. She framed herself as a victim of institutional bullying, a mother protecting her family from an organization that had never truly accepted her. The response was brilliant from a public relations perspective. It shifted the narrative from Meghan's conduct to the palace's motives. It transformed a financial scandal into a social justice issue. News outlets that had reported the title stripping now had to cover the accusations with equal prominence. Within hours, celebrities spoke out in Meghan's defense. American talk show hosts devoted segments to discussing alleged palace discrimination. Civil rights organizations issued statements expressing concern. Coverage in the United States turned sympathetic, portraying Meghan as a woman persecuted by an outdated, discriminatory institution. Meghan's lawyers released a separate statement threatening legal action if the palace released evidence publicly. They argued that financial records were private and that publishing them would constitute harassment. Harry appeared in a video message posted to social media. He looked exhausted but defiant. He stated that he stood completely behind his wife. He accused his family of using the same tactics against Meghan that had been used against his mother. He said he would not allow history to repeat itself. The palace faced exactly the nightmare they had feared. Evidence of financial misconduct was being buried under accusations of bigotry. Meghan had positioned herself as a victim rather than someone facing legitimate questions. Public opinion in Britain remained divided, but international sympathy swung toward Meghan. The counterattack had landed with devastating effectiveness. The palace had anticipated Meghan's counterattack. They had prepared for accusations of discrimination and persecution, but they had also prepared something else. Evidence that could not be dismissed or reframed. Evidence so concrete that it would speak for itself. 3 days after Meghan's statement, a major investigative journalist received an anonymous package. Inside were documents that had been carefully redacted to protect certain privacy concerns, while revealing the essential facts. Bank statements showing the offshore account. Corporate registration records proving the ownership chain. Transaction receipts with dates and amounts clearly visible. Most damning were email exchanges between Meghan and representatives of various media companies. The emails discussed specific payments in exchange for access to information about royal family activities. One email explicitly mentioned providing details about a private family gathering in exchange for £25,000. Another discussed arranging exclusive photographs from a royal event in exchange for £15,000. The journalist verified the documents through multiple independent sources. Financial experts confirmed the bank statements were authentic. Corporate lawyers verified the registration records matched official government databases. Digital forensics specialists examined the email metadata and confirmed they had not been fabricated or altered. The story was published on a Sunday morning. It included photographs of key documents with sensitive information blocked out. It quoted from emails that showed clear intent to monetize royal access. It traced money flows from entertainment companies to the offshore account with precision. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Public reaction shifted immediately. People who had defended Meghan as a victim now confronted documented proof of financial misconduct. The emails particularly damaged her credibility. They showed calculated planning rather than innocent misunderstanding. They revealed someone deliberately profiting from royal position while publicly claiming to be persecuted. Social media conversations changed tone dramatically. Supporters who had accused the palace of lying now struggled to explain the documented evidence. The discrimination accusation, while still raised by some, lost much of its power when confronted with Meghan's own words discussing payments for royal information. American media. Coverage became more nuanced. news outlets that had initially supported Meghan began questioning whether the palace's actions might have been justified after all. Talk show hosts who had condemned the title stripping now acknowledged the evidence raised serious concerns. Meghan's legal team issued a brief statement claiming the documents had been obtained illegally and that their release violated privacy laws. But the damage was done. The public had seen proof that contradicted her claims of innocence. The palace maintained official silence. They didn't confirm or deny involvement in the leak. They simply allowed the evidence to speak for itself. Sometimes the most powerful response was no response at all. The truth had emerged, and it was exactly what the palace had said it was from the beginning. Meghan had monetized her royal position systematically and deliberately. The hidden bank account wasn't a legitimate business arrangement. It was evidence of a profound betrayal of trust.